I think my husband genuinely hates me. I've ruined my life. For the past 4 months, I've secretly been sleeping with a male coworker. Initially, it was only sexual, but after a couple of months, we became romantically involved as well. I began to neglect my husband as I grew closer to my coworker, and eventually he began to suspect that I was cheating. I denied it to the bitter end, which I really regret. I wish I had just come clean when he first confronted me and asked if there was someone else. But I denied it. I lied to him so many times and even blamed him for the relationship problems that my affair was causing. He began to feel like our lack of intimacy was his fault and became very insecure. It all came out when a friend of his saw me at a hotel with my coworker. We were coming out after spending the day, holding hands while we walked and shit. He took photos and sent them to my husband. I came home that night after the date and found him waiting on the couch for me. He didn't even look mad. He just looked drained. He showed me the photos without even saying anything, and I tried to come up with some pathetic excuse, then finally admitted it when I realized there was no way to hide it. He had bags packed already, and he left that night to stay with his friend. Oh, I'm so guilty. I called my coworker and told him that we were completely done and that I wished we had never slept together. I hate myself so much for letting this get so out of hand. My husband has completely avoided my calls and texts, which isn't surprising at all. I have been living in pure hell the past few days and been crying a lot and vomiting a lot. He did finally agree to see me at his friend's place. His friend didn't leave him the whole time like a guard dog. It was awkward, and I couldn't get everything out like I wanted to. I begged him to give me another chance, despite how embarrassing it was to say stuff like that in front of his friend. But he didn't give me a solid answer. The whole time we spoke, he just stared right through me. I've never seen hatred like that in someone's face before. All I can think about is how he used to look at me like I was the most beautiful girl in the world, and now he looks like he wishes he could kill me. I don't blame him. I hurt him so badly and then made him think it was his own fault. I know I'm a horrible person and a horrible wife, but I still love him. I've realized how empty my life is without him, and I want him back. I don't know if it's possible, but I'm willing to do whatever it takes. Does anyone know what could fix things? Counseling? Therapy? I'll take any advice I can. I need to fix this mistake. Update. I finally managed to get into contact with my husband today. He's been ignoring my phone calls and texts, and I was starting to think he may have blocked my number, but he finally picked up. I had gotten a few comments on my last post suggesting couples counseling, and I suggested it to him. He seemed to shrug the idea off, but I kept pushing. He finally snapped at me and told me that he needed time to think about it. I asked what he needed to think about, since I didn't think counseling could hurt anything, only make things better. He said that he didn't want to see me and that he had been a lot happier being away from me. I hung up on him, which I regret since he hasn't been picking up my calls anymore. It was just such a punch in the gut. I think he honestly hates me. Someone who said he loved me unconditionally now hates me, and that's the most painful thing I've ever felt. I know that this is my fault. I was selfish and stupid to ever sleep with my coworker, and I've admitted this so many times to him. I've told him how much I hate myself for what I did. It's still not enough for him, though. He doesn't want to work to fix our marriage because he hates me so much that he doesn't even want to be in the same room as me. How can I fix this if he can't even handle seeing me? I really do still love him, no matter how badly he hurts me. I'll keep fighting for us if he lets me, but I don't think he will. 5 years of marriage plus 2 years of dating, and now it's all over. I'm so afraid that I'll never see him again. Is this really it? Is our marriage beyond saving? Please message me if you know of any way I can possibly change his mind. I want him back in my life so badly. Story 2. Caught my wife of 16 years calling her high school sweetheart. Should I be angry? Emotional affair? Okay, so I'm new here but need some advice from the group. So my wife and I have been married for 16 years and together for 20. We have 3 children, and generally I would say that we have a great marriage. That is not to say that we haven't had hard times. I'm a recovering addict and have been in treatment for drug addiction 3 times. Addiction problems hit me back in 2008 after a doctor prescribed me 120 Xanax bars a month with 3 refills and 60 milligrams of Adderall twice daily. To a person with unresolved childhood trauma was molested at age 8. This was a recipe for disaster. My wife, however, has been great. She has fully supported my recovery. This last time she took her wedding ring off when I re-entered rehab for the 3rd time. I once again lost my job, I'm a lawyer, and spent 60 days in treatment trying to finally deal with my childhood issues that I kept secret for too long. Although this isn't a post about recovery, I thought it would be relevant to give you all some background information. I am now 6 months sober and have a great job making more money than I have ever made, and my wife put her wedding ring back on. But I recently found out that back in December and January, my wife had been talking to her high school boyfriend. Maybe it's nothing, and I hope you all tell me it's nothing. It started with me looking through my wife's Facebook friends. I came across this weird profile with a guy's first name as the first and last name, like Chris. The name just so happened to be her high school boyfriend's name. Then, when I asked my wife if it was his Facebook account, she lied to me and then unfriended him. She finally admitted that it was his profile and that they are just friends. I asked her if they had ever talked on the phone, texted each other, DM'd each other, or emailed each other, and she promised me she had not. Fast forward 2 or 3 weeks, I create an account on my wireless provider's website, which allows me to look at her call history. I notice 2 very long calls, over 40 minutes, with an area code of a state he had lived. Long story short, it was him. It took my wife a while to admit this. All I can tell is that there have been 4 phone conversations. 2 were about 40 minutes, 1 was 2 minutes, and the last was a 1-minute call on the day she unfriended him. No text messages, but there is no way to determine if they messaged each other. She swears they are just friends, but I try to explain to her that they were never just friends. She only knew him in an intimate context. It doesn't help that the phone calls occurred at a time when I was straight out of rehab and unemployed. I hate my alcoholic, drug addict mind as it takes something like this and turns it into the worst thing imaginable. So should I be worried? I really want to see her email account and Facebook messages to see what they exchanged. But I do realize that this would be a pretty shitty breach of privacy boundaries. Update, backstory. Back in February, I found out that my wife had spoken with her college boyfriend on the phone a few times. But they were pretty long phone calls, almost an hour apiece. I was pissed. I ended up blocking his number from our cell phone service provider, and my wife told me it was over. It was not over. My wife continues to act squirrely, protective of her phone, password changes, etc. I knew something was off, but I kept checking the phone logs and didn't see his number, so I thought everything was all right. Problem is that FB was their primary means of talking. March and most of April, my wife and I were doing great. Our relationship had never been better. Until one day I meet her at the car and the guy's phone number falls out of her purse. I say, WTF, I thought it was over? She replies, oh, that's old. More freaking lies. Turns out they used FB Messenger to call each other. Found that out the next day. Her response is, we are just friends. It's just a phone call. This was 2 weeks ago. The next week I ask her to block him on FB. She does, and a couple of days go by, and I start to feel better. I recall that I left something in her car and asked for her keys. Oh yeah, I bought her a $30K new car the day before she talked to the dude via FB Messenger call. She starts acting funny like she is going to walk out there with me. I tell her I can go alone. She is a terrible liar. I know something is wrong again, so I reach under her driver's seat and there it is. A effing burner phone. I still get pissed thinking about it. She hadn't used it yet, but still she was planning on giving him the number. BTW, this happened last Wednesday. Saturday morning rolls around, and like every morning over the past month, I wake up and it's the first thing I think of. 10 minutes or so after waking, I get a message on FB from guess who, the other guy's wife. Finally, I have some backup support. So she confronts my wife, I confront her husband. I finally got to read all the FB messages, which were not too terribly bad. I mean, they were inappropriate, but they never talked about having sex. Most of it was my wife complaining about how controlling and/or jealous I am of her friendship with him, and him responding, Well, I hope you all work it out. There was some talk about the two of them meeting for lunch the next time he was in town, but it didn't pan out. It is finally over. My wife is very hard-headed and can also be very childlike. I truly do believe that until this weekend, she could not see what was so terribly wrong with her confiding in her old boyfriend. She would say, "We live 15 hours away. What's going to happen?" After the pain the guy's wife went through, I think she realizes that she screwed up massively. I've done some very shitty things to her, so I am choosing to forgive her. I won't forget it anytime soon, but I have control over who I forgive, and she deserves forgiveness. I'm an addict in recovery, 7 months, and she never gave up on me. The whole thing started because I relapsed, and she needed someone to talk to that she trusted. He was just the first available. After the reconnect, I think it was just hard for her to end it because it was never sexual. I think she understands now that true intimacy is not sexual, but rather being vulnerable to someone else. She was exposing her vulnerability to the wrong person. Finally, a bonus piece of cake for me was when the other wife posted a picture of her and her husband, the old college boyfriend, on FB. They both looked very happy, and I got to see for the first time that I don't have anything to worry about. My wife hadn't seen him in over 20 years. I showed her the picture, short, balding, and looks like an old man, and we both started dying laughing. I do, however, truly hope that he makes his wife happy. I got to know her this past weekend, and she deserves happiness. I mean, you could have been the most perfect husband on the planet, but your wife still would have cheated on you. Your relapse wasn't what triggered her wanting to reach out to an ex. If she had wanted to talk, pretty sure there were other people available in her life and within close proximity too. But no, she wanted to talk to her ex. She made the choice and it's all on her. Remember, cheaters trickle truth, gaslight, and lie. I hope your marriage works out since it's what you seem to want. But OP, I'll be watching my back constantly if I were you. If she did this once, there's nothing stopping her from doing it again. So watch out. Good luck.